Go ahead, Varushka.
Okay. Namaste and greetings. I, Varushka Bhushan, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Evam Niti Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi, extend my warmest welcome to you all at IMPRI, #Web Policy Learning. Today, we are gathered here for the inaugural day of the LPPYF Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship Cohort 3. The theme for this cohort is Advancing Justice, Bridging Gaps in Public Policy Enforcement. IMPRI, with its steadfast dedication to advocacy and youth empowerment, proudly announces the launch of the third cohort of the Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship. This pioneering one-month online summer school is designed to immerse the next generation of leaders in the intricate world of public policy enforcement. This fellowship nurtures future leaders' passionate about law, public policy, and social justice in India. The rule of law's efficacy is tied to justice, ensuring citizens' rights through principles of impartiality, transparency, and fairness. UN entities help enhance justice systems, empowering disadvantaged communities and addressing systemic issues. In India, access to justice is protected by the Constitution and international covenants, with legal aid programs ensuring equity for all. The Summer 2024 theme, Advancing Justice, Bridging Gaps in Public Policy Enforcement, emphasizes robust, equitable legal frameworks. Participants will gain insights from experts, engage in hands-on projects, and explore topics like access to justice, criminal justice reform, and human rights. The fellowship empowers fellows to make a tangible impact through advocacy, policy proposals, research, and community outreach, providing support and resources to drive positive change. We welcome you to join us for an immersive journey into impactful policy and action. The chair for the program is Professor Vibhuti Patel, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI, and the lead advisor and legal hands-on sessions will be dealt with by Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, visiting senior fellow at IMPRI, advocate, author, and researcher, gender and human rights. Our expert panel for the program includes Shri Shailesh Gandhi ji, Mr. Sandeep Chachra ji, Dr. Vahida Nainar ji, Professor Dr. Sina Paul ji, Professor Abdul Hafiz Gandhi ji, Mr. Himanshu Shekhar ji, Advocate Lara Jasani ji, Professor Vibhuti Patel ji, Advocate Dr. Albertina Almeida ji, Professor Soumya Uma ji, and the governors for this course are Dr. Ajay Gudavarthi, Advocate Celine Thomas ji, Dr. Simi Mehta ji, and Dr. Arjun Kumar ji. Proceeding further, we welcome everyone to this transformative journey and appreciate your dedication in investing your time, energy, and commitment to gaining a profound understanding of the crucial role and intricate details of policy in action. We have also shared course outlines and reading resources in your email for your perusal. Before we start today's session, I would like to state the housekeeping announcements. First, please join the meeting on time. There will be a Q&A session after each presentation. Share your questions in the Q&A box. The questions must not be posted as an anonymous attendee. Ensure that your questions are precise, and please refrain from making general comments in the questions to save time. To begin today's session, I would like to invite our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI, to give her opening remarks. We welcome you, ma'am, and over to you.
Thank you, Varushka, for introducing the course, and welcome Shri Shailesh Gandhi for today's opening for inaugural address. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Arjun Kumar, Dr. Simi Mehta, Dr. Shalu Nigam, who is a lead advisor for this course, Ms. Vaishali Singh, Priyanka Negi, and today's moderator, Varushka, and esteemed participants. Welcome to the Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship Cohort 3, which is dedicated to nurturing the next generation of leaders who are passionate about addressing critical issues at intersection of law, public policy, and social justice in India. The pursuit of justice has long stood as a cornerstone of human society, emphasizing the inseparable link between law and justice. It is a fundamental and inherent human right enshrined in our constitution. Today we saw our ministers, they all took oath to gave a promise to respect and protect our constitutional guarantees, ensuring easy access to legal recourse when needed. In contemporary times, the efficacy of rule of law is intimately tied to ensuring access to justice. The administration of justice serves as the mechanism through which rule of law upholds rights and equitable treatment to the citizen. This encompasses the timely and convenient pursuit of justice through legal avenues, underscored by principles of impartiality, transparency, effectiveness, fairness, and accountability. It is imperative that access to justice be equally available to all, irrespective of the intersectional location of caste, color, sex, religion, economic status, and region. UN entities provide essential support to the member states. Currently, there are 201 member nation states with the UN in enhancing justice systems across various domains. This assistance includes facilitating monitoring and evaluation processes, empowering disadvantaged communities to seek redress for injustices, and enhancing legal protection and awareness, and expanding access to legal aid. Additionally, efforts are made to bolster civil society and parliamentary oversight, address systemic issues within the justice sector, such as combat impunity for the perpetrators of sexual and gender-based violence and other serious conflict-related crimes, forge stronger connections between formal and informal justice mechanisms. In the Indian context, access to justice not only constitutes fundamental aspects of rule of law, but also protected both by the domestic common law and the international human rights conventions. Article 14 and 21 of the Indian Constitution notably guarantee an individual's fundamental right to access to justice, principle upheld by Supreme Court of India. Central to this endeavor are legal aid programs, campaigns pivotal in expanding access to justice for all members of the society. So our theme of this summer program for advancing justice, bridging gap in public policy enforcement, it is in a rapidly evolving global landscape. It is imperative to ensure that our legal and policy frameworks are not only robust, but are also equitable and inclusive. And this theme underscores the commitment to fostering dialogue, collaboration, and action to address systemic injustices and promoting meaningful change. Through this fellowship program, we are trying to achieve that. And we have very, very erudite, committed, sincere, and visionary expert, Sri Shailesh Gandhi, for the inaugural address. And we are really honored by his presence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now invite Sri Shailesh Gandhi ji, RTI activist and former Central Information Commissioner, for his inaugural session, talking about accelerating time-bound justice delivery. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'll just share my screen. Is my screen visible? Hello?
Hello.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet, sir.
Please try again, sir.
Now is it visible?
Now we can, yes.
Thank you.
So you can go full screen.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
I believe India needs to think of this topic, which is not being thought of at all. I've yet to see a Chief Justice of India saying that we'll offer time-bound justice in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. The Niti Aayog, of course, has made a brilliant forecast. I don't know on what basis in their Abruzcal paper, where they have said that it will take 424 years to clear the backlog of cases in India. I don't know from where they got the figure of 424 or what magic was used. Let us see, is time-bound justice possible? I'm not a lawyer and legal profession. People laugh at me and say, Mr. Gandhi, you don't understand. Well, I have a simple hypothesis, but even if my hypothesis is bugged, we need to think of this to ensure time-bound justice to at least most of the people in the country. I would contend that we don't have a justice system. What we have is an injustice system. Just a minute. India has a new world record. I think I'll have to reduce the size slightly. India has over 5 crore cases pending in the courts this year. The nation is targeting a 5 trillion economy, but before we can reach 5 trillion economy, we set a world record of 5 crore pending cases in the country. How will this match with any justice system at all? Just a minute, my screen is not.
Yes, you can go full screen, sir.
I'm going full screen, but my entire screen is not visible, my friend.
So the banner must be coming. You can, yeah, now it is full screen for us. Yes.
No, the top part is not coming.
Oh, sir, you can drag it to down.
We can see full screen, full slide of yours.
Okay, fair enough. Delayed justice is injustice, in my opinion. People say justice delayed is justice denied, but nobody takes it seriously in our country. In 2006, 292 lakh cases were pending in courts. In the year 2024, we have now got 50 lakh cases in the courts. And 500 lakh cases pending in courts. And at this rate, by 2047, target that the Prime Minister keeps talking about, we will end up with over 10 crore cases if we continue the way we are. And we are going the way with no thought of what is happening. In many countries, over 70% of the cases are disposed in less than 4 months, and less than 5% take over 3 years. In India, presently, about 25% are disposed in 1 year, and over 45% take over 3 years. India is at 79th position in rule of law index. That's how poor we are. And we are not paying any attention to this. We are talking of quality of judgments, quality of judges, etc. But we are not bothered about the fact that we keep slipping in the rule of law index. Just a small comparison. This is taken from the economic survey presented by the Finance Ministry in the government of in Parliament in 2018-19. According to them, average age of disposed cases is about half a year for civil cases and slightly less for criminal cases in the European countries. In India, the comparative figure is over 2.5 years and nearly 2.2 years. This is the wide gap, and this gap is widening, and we are making no attempt to think about this. Case duration from initiation to finalization by court level, Australia, this is. If you look at the first part of it, magistrates, courts, only 3.5% of the cases are there pending for over 52 weeks. Just 3.5%. 73.3% cases get settled in 13 weeks, 13 to 26 weeks, 15.7, 26 to 39, 5, 39 to 52, 2.5. And over 52 weeks, just 3.5% cases are pending in the smaller courts, I can see. Our prisons are overcrowded, we say. This is the situation we have. Bombay High Court is monitoring. It has issued instructions to Maharashtra government, create more prisons. And every 3 months or 6 months, they take a report of how many new prisons have been created. Do we need more prisons? Take a look from a slightly different perspective. This is NCRB data in 2021. Number of convicts was 1,22,852. Under trials were 4,27,165. 78% of people in prison are under trials. And we have the gall to talk of Article 14 of the Constitution. We say we want to defend the Constitution. Article 14 of the Constitution is violated each day in our courts of law, from the Supreme Court to the smallest court. 78% people in prison just as under trials. Prison capacity was in 2021 4,25,609. If under trials were 50% of the total prison population, there would be 1,22,852 prisoners who are under trials at 2021. Therefore, the prison capacity required would have been 2,45,604. We are building more prisons, not bothered about whether these prisoners are convicts or not. In the USA, under trials are only about 20%. The slogan should be make courts, not prisons. Instead, our courts are proclaiming decisions saying make more prisons, because the situation in prisons are impossible to handle. We say corruption doesn't go down in India. Where does the root cause lie? A study was done by the Indian Police Journal for a 5-year period of CBI anti-corruption branch from 1980 to 1984, 5 years, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. This study was undertaken after 26 years in 2008. What was the outcome of the work of the CBI anti-corruption branch, a complete CBI anti-corruption branch? Accused persons were 275, convicted was 144, pretty good. Average time for investigation was 13.4 months. Average time for first trial was 88 months. Number of accused sent to prison for over 20 days, just 4. 26 years later, the work of an anti-corruption branch CBI office resulted in conviction and prison sentence of over 20 days for just 4 people. Is the system at all a threat to people who are corrupt? The answer is no. After 26 years, judicial process still continues in 71 cases. The Indian taxpayer is paying money for continuing 71 cases after 26 years. A full anti-corruption branch in 5 years of work could only ensure serious punishment of 4 persons. Unless the judicial system delivers in reasonable time, corruption will thrive. I am saying corruption will not go down, it will thrive, and the rule of law cannot prevail. The Lokpal is no solution. Lokpal has been around for, I think, 4 or 5 years now and has shown no result. And it cannot unless the judicial system gears up. People say, no, but this is an impossible task. Worldwide, that's not an impossible task. People say we have more people. We have more people to work also. Usual solutions suggested are major judicial reforms. Judges must perform better, change laws, double or triple the number of judges. Chief Justice of India, Justice Chachra, in 2017, had tears rolling down his eyes when he was on a platform with the Prime Minister. And he said, I need 70,000 judges when the sanction position was 26,840. Otherwise, we cannot deliver. The constant refrain of the Supreme Court in various judgments has been that we need 50 judges per million. And people don't understand. We have such few judges, we cannot operate. General approaches, except that the problem cannot be solved, and will keep growing. According to Niti Aayog strategy paper, it will take 324 years to clear a backlog. Without changing anything in the way the courts work, how many judges will be required to clear the incoming cases? Simple logic is whatever is incoming should get cleared in a year. And you have to take care of the backlog also. Fair enough. This analysis is based on a simple assumption that if 10 judges dispose 10,000 cases in a year, 12 judges will clear 12,000 cases. It will not work to mathematical precision. But our study of a 12-year period from 2006 to 2017 shows that the variability from year to year, Indian average, is in a fairly tight band. It's not haywire completely. Sanction position of judges was increased from 2006 to 2017 by 19%, 29%, and 55% for Supreme Court, High Courts, and subordinate cases. It's not that the sanction position is not increased. I've not been able to figure out exactly how it gets increased, but it is getting increased. We took data from the Supreme Court's website at this website. And what did we find? Now, what does delay do? Just a brief outline. Criminal cases, investigating machinery loses interest. Witnesses lose memory, and this results in contradictions. Conviction in a genuine, truthful case becomes a dream. Innocent people are caged if they are poor. Those people in prisons, as under trials, 90% of them or 95% of them are poor, disadvantaged people. And we make big statements saying there's legal aid available for the poor, etc. What does it translate into? Nothing. Go and tell the man in the prison who's suffering for 2 years and 3 years and 5 years as an under trial that no, we have a great legal aid system. In civil matters, delay in grant of relief has effect of frustration of relief break and rampant arbitrariness in listing and case allocation. This, when you have a long queue like this, arbitrariness and corruption increase. They are breeding grounds for this. And if to say that there's no corruption in the judicial system, we are living in a fool's paradise. A simple principle of first in, first out is violated. If I ask a illiterate lady of 80 in a village, if there's a queue, who should be served first? She will say the person who's come first should be served first. This is not followed at all in our judicial system. Now I'll come to what we are suggesting as a solution. And I repeat, even if our solution is stupid, please think of this. This should be priority one for the nation to solve. We looked at the number of sanctioned positions and working position, and we discovered that in the Supreme Court, the average vacancy from 2006 to 2017 was 12%. High Courts was 32%. 1 in 3 sanctioned positions not filled. And subordinate courts, 21%. Supreme Court in various rulings has said we need 50 judges per million population. The sanction strength is about 18 or 19 per million population currently. And even that is not filled. And what is the impact of this? Oh, you will say, theek hai, thoda kam hota hai. What difference does it make? Here's what difference it makes. We've taken the total number of cases during the 12-year period. Total cases instituted 8.9 lakh cases in Supreme Court, High Courts 215 lakh cases, lower courts 2156 lakh cases, total 2380 lakh cases. The average per year works out to 198.4. Total cases disposed was averagely 193.7. It's not too bad. The gap is not too wide. Increase in pendency is 4.7 lakh cases per year. This is the average we worked out. What we call misdisposal due to vacancies. Assuming that it would have worked at the same level of disposal as the current judges, 55.1 lakh cases were misdisposal every year. Okay, you may say not 55 lakh, 40 lakhs, 45 lakhs, but this would have brought down the pendency each year. Balance spending as on 2017 end was 348.75 lakhs. It could have been theoretically, arithmetically, minus 312.65 lakhs. We could have imported cases. I'm saying this is arithmetic. Don't take it at face value and say, how can we have minus cases? I understand you can't have minus cases. It could have taken more cases into account, or it could have given better justice or spent more time on cases. But that is all the gap is. The gap is not 2 times and 3 times. This is the story we are trying to tell. Summary 198.4 lakh cases instituted every year. Cases disposed 193.7. Shortfall was 4.7 lakhs. Missed disposal was 55.1 lakhs. Disposal shortfall each year during this period was 2.5% per year, whereas the vacancies were 21%. Any schoolboy will tell you that if you fill up the vacancies, your disposal will go down. Even if you have 5% vacancies, the backlog would start going down. We are not doing this. This should be priority one for the nation. We're just not doing it. At the end, during the Q&A session, don't take anything that I take as gospel truth. Challenge everything. I say, think of it like this, that Shailesh Gandhi is an engineer, not a lawyer, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Please go ahead and challenge this. Just taking two figures, 2006, number of High Court judges sanctioned in India was 716. Number of High Court judges working was 611. 2022, number of judges sanctioned was 1108. Number of High Court judges working was 730. So no matter how many we sanction, judges are not being appointed. And we trace this, there was a period in the Supreme Court's collegium when they were giving reasons and details of new appointments they were recommending. During that period, this is what we found. Kerala High Court, vacancy occurred in March to July 2016. Recommendation received from High Court Collegium for appointment was in February 2017. The Supreme Court Collegium took 6 months and in October 2017 gave a recommendation. 15 to 18 months after a vacancy occurs. Madras High Court, similar story, 16 to 20 months. Madras High Court, 3 to 6 months. How can we fill this up? Positions are sanctioned, but nominations are not even given for names. And without Supreme Court Collegium's nomination, this government cannot appoint judges. That is known. I've heard the charge that the government takes time to sanction. I concede that should be changed. But the Supreme Court must first, the Collegium must first do its job of sanctioning, of nominating enough people. Number of vacancies should be equal to number of judges recommended. Then there will be pressure on the government as well. Today, neither the courts nor the legal profession are bothered about it. Well, this is a case in a Japanese company and an Indian company had a dispute. The Japanese company went to a New York court and said justice cannot be obtained in India. Therefore, the New York court should try this case, should settle this case. Two Chief Justices of India, Justice Kirpal and Justice Hamadi, gave affidavits, both conceding that justice cannot be done in criminal cases. And that's something you can read later. This is a silly slide. Some people tell me, how can we ensure no vacancies? Here's a simple suggestion, and any schoolboy will tell you this is possible. Draw a list of retirements for next 5 years and renew it every year. The day a judge retires is known the day he joins. His date of birth doesn't change. It's not a magic figure to come out of the hat. Estimate vacancies due to deaths, resignations, promotions based on earlier 3 years data. B. Every year, forecast the number of cases for next 3 years and factor the additional judges required. C. Add all three and start the process of exams and recording recommendations every 6 months. This is a simple solution. It doesn't require great knowledge to come with this. I've been flaunting this solution since a long time. Justice V.N. Sri Krishna has thought it fit to endorse this. He says the analysis appears to be quite legitimate and the solution propounded by Shailesh Gandhi seems workable. This is a YouTube site at which you can see Justice Sri Krishna saying this. I am contending India cannot become a first-rate nation with a third-rate judicial system. Contract implementation is very difficult in India. Most foreign investors will not come and put in a lot of money in India because the justice system just doesn't work. And having fast-track cases is no solution. It actually means somebody's being pushed back. When people talk of fast-track cases, I think in my mind, the picture that comes is of the poor being pushed back in the a few other points which could be considered is e-filing of petitions, affidavits, payment of fees, SOPs, RLE would save 3 lakh fees each year if we went paperless in our courts. Algorithm-based computer listing, roster, case allocation, and adjournments, only 5% override to judges. This was something for which 4 Supreme Court judges had the unprecedented press conference in the lodge of their house. Nothing has happened. Nothing. One of them became the Chief Justice and continued the same system. Adjournment should be rare as per CRPC and CPC. The law is flouted routinely in our courts. Our courts do not follow the law. It's a charge I'm making with very great pain. Hybrid virtual hearings could be another solution. These are additional points. Even without this, if you just hire the sanctioned positions, it can solve the problem. Some solution, some help in this. Have secretaries to estimate the likely vacancy to assist corrigible states. Right now, the judges think they can do everything themselves. They must be responsible for evaluating and shortlisting likely prospects. The collegium must recommend names 3 months before vacancy. At state level, the top candidates must be taken in the process to fill the vacancies. The concept of failing all candidates must stop. High Court and Supreme Court judges are selected out of a list given by the Collegium of the Supreme Court. In the lower judiciary, there are competitive exams for most of the positions. And I have seen instances where thousands of people apply and all are failed. If you adopt an approach like this, you want angels to come down from heaven. You must take the best of what is available. IITs, IIMs, national law colleges take the best of what is available. They don't say we will set a standard where everybody will fail and therefore we won't employ. Infosys, all these places, nobody likes vacancies like this. Proposal to fill judicial vacancies has been endorsed by 100 IIT alumni, Justice B.N. Sri Krishna and Justice R.C. Chauhan. These are YouTube references. Campaign to add citizens, video endorsements. We are suggesting that if you are convinced, make your own video and put it on YouTube. Let's use social media. I'm an old man, therefore not very adept in the social media and these things. But younger people can do this. This should become a people's movement where we don't have to go on the streets. We can do it sitting in our own houses. Law colleges should discuss this. At least discuss this and say if this proposition is false, come up with a better proposition. Come up with a different proposition. Look at it differently. Saying judges must become better, judges must do this, judges must do that is not going to solve anything. It hasn't. There's only one since independence. Various services of the government have been there and they've all improved, may not be as much as we would like them to be. But there's been some improvement. Roads, postal services, telephony, whatever we talk of. There's only one service that has deteriorated constantly, the judicial delivery system. You must first realize that long delays lead to an injustice system. Matsya Nyaya, according to Chanakya. This is easily achievable. We do not need 3 times the present judges, only about 20% more. Government will pass a law and fix responsibility to ensure less than 5% vacancies. Or CJI can feel this as a PIL and give directions. All chief justices should be held accountable. Rule of law can prevail and right to speedy justice can be ensured. Declaring right to speedy justice as a fundamental right has no meaning. It's a meaningless exercise. It means nothing to anybody. Rule of law can prevail and right to speedy justice can be ensured. Over 90% of cases must be decided within 1 year. I repeat again, forget this solution. If the solution is bad for whatever reasons, forget it. But come up with something which says here in the roadmap is in the next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, we will come to a 1 year solution. We are not even driving towards that. We are just deteriorating and watching it and saying, oh, nothing can be done. Niti Aayog says it takes 324 years to clear the backlog. How in the world is that feasible? And how does it make sense at all? Fill up judicial vacancies, subordinate judiciary is joint responsibility of high courts and government. And together they must ensure that vacancies are less than 5%. High Judiciary Collegium recommendations. WP 1303 of 1987, judgment given by 9 judges in the Supreme Court, has laid down that selection must be done and names must be selected at least 1 or 2 months before the actual vacancy occurs. This law framed by the Supreme Court is flouted by the Supreme Court Collegium itself. We should hold them accountable. Who is accountable? Acknowledge the shortfall. Adjournment should be as per CPC and CRPC. We have laws. If the courts don't follow the laws, I still recall a few months back, the Chief Justice of India said in 2 months' time, Supreme Court had to give some 3,600 adjournments. And I was wondering who's responsible for this. It is the judiciary that allows adjournments. They need to do something. And the Chief Justice of India is making a national statement saying we had to do 3,600 adjournments as if it was a lack beyond their control. The same thing I'm saying, you can bring change. My hope is citizens of India must find the courage to say we want change. And the change can happen. It's not impossible. We do not have to live like this. Otherwise, the rule of law will collapse. If you continue at this rate, 10 crore cases will be there. Today, those powerful, those who are wrongdoers, don't fear the law. And if they don't fear the law is meaningless. What we call a justice system is an injustice system masquerading as a justice system. The in is forgotten. Without timely disposal, all judicial and constitutional processes become meaningless. This encourages arbitration and corruption. CI must show a roadmap and define what is required and how much time timeliness will be achieved. Citizens must make this a priority. Legal profession in particular, but I'm saying all citizens. This concerns all of us. Otherwise, we give rise to bulldozer Raj and encounter Raj. We are leading towards lawlessness. Citizens are celebrating encounters, which is not a very good thing. We are becoming less and less civilized as we go along. Here's my last pitch. Mera Bharat Mahan we say. I say Mera Bharat Mahan nahi hai. Mera Bharat Mahan nahi hai, par ye dosh mera hai. I, the individual citizen sovereign of this nation. It's a democracy. I control and have a responsibility to make my system better. And we can do it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please ask questions. Make it brutally. Say, Mr. Gandhi, what you're talking is nonsense. It's unachievable. I believe if European countries can do it, if Australia can do it, why can't India? And India must. Unless we become in the top 10 in the legal ranking system, India will never become a first-rate nation. I can guarantee that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry for the patience.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gandhi. And before we open the floor to questions, I would like to invite our chair and legal advisor for their comments, if they have any.
Shailesh, there was a time when we all were extremely optimistic about Right to Information Act, and we as NGO and social movement had greatly used it immediately after it was put in place. Maharashtra was the first one to do. What is the status? Can that be the tool in the hands of citizens to make the justice system accountable and galvanize it into action to deliver a speedy justice?
With deep pain, I'm saying, everybody in power dislikes RTI. We had one of the best laws in the world. I have a critique of Supreme Court judgments on RTI, which, in my opinion, are per incurium. But where does one go for relief? There is nowhere. And the bureaucracy, of course, doesn't like it. The political class doesn't like it. Unless there is a people's movement, saving RTI sounds a little difficult. RTI will continue. Like the consumer courts continue, we'll continue this thing. But the law is not being applied as drawn up by Parliament. And now it's being amended brutally. So I'm saying we need to build a people's movement. That's a longer fight, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will now.
I just add one sentence. The law has been amended by Supreme Court judges.
It has been violated by
Amended
amended by, yeah,
illegally and unconstitutionally.
correct.
Okay. I will now open the floor for questions. You can put it in the Q&A box, or you can raise your hand and then proceed to ask the question as well.
We can have Shala ma'am's comments before the Q&A. Ma'am, please go ahead.
Yeah, just one thing, sir, like since I have been practicing as a lawyer for past, a few years, and what I have been seeing is that the judges blame the lawyers blame the clients. So it's the blame game which is there, because, if there is a pending, cases, and the judges will say that, okay, lawyers are taking adjournments and therefore they are delaying the cases. But the thing is that nobody is looking at, as you have rightly said, that we should have more number of courts and more number of judges. But this is not happening, and we are just playing the blame game for past few years. So definitely we require citizens movement. But the other thing is also what I would just like to add here is that the kind of diversity in the judges, selection of judges, because I think yesterday, the Chief Justice of India went to Harvard and he was delivering a lecture, and where he said that, we should have more women judges. But then who will appoint more women judges? It is on his, plate that he has to do something about that. So I really don't know, how should we proceed in this kind of system?
Ma'am, in my opinion, and I'm saying this with deep pain, the judicial system has given up its ownership of the judicial justice system. The legal system also has given up its ownership, and everybody is saying, "Chalta hai, chalne do." And here's the solution. Supreme Court judges have been saying we need 3 times the number of judges. Supreme Court, in its judgments, has said we need 50 judges per million. As if unless we do that, we can't have a justice system. What our study shows is that we need to just fill up sanctioned positions. It's a small increment of 15-20%. People say we don't have courthouses. Courts can operate in 2 shifts. There's no reason why courts can't operate in 2 shifts. Without any expense on infrastructure. But somebody needs to feel the fire in the belly and say, this is unacceptable. Who will think of India? I'm sorry, but I think the political class thinks more of India than the judicial system. Where the judicial system is responsible to deliver, the judicial system must think they own it and say, here's the solution. As I said, jump what I'm saying. Forget it. But for God's sake, let the Chief Justice of India come up with a solution saying, okay, in the next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, we will have a solution. That is not happening. And that is what is very painful. And we keep deteriorating. I'm hoping some of you young people will take this up as your cause.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vibhuti, and thank you, Ms. Shalu. Just as I said, we're opening the floor to questions, and we'll start with Shalvi. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, Varshka. Thank you, Dr. Gandhi, for a wonderful insight on the justice system. I just have a quick question. So I am myself not a law student, but I am interested in public policy, and I'll be pursuing a career in public policy. So I just want to understand from all the speakers here that how can a public policy maker may address systemic biases, as Dr. Nigam said, that how the CJI just addressed that, we should have more women, more women on the board of the CJIs or in the legal system. So how that systemic biases should be catered to as a policy maker, and specifically when we go with the criminal justice system?
I believe democracy is rule of the people, for the people, by the people.
Correct.
We've converted it into a system of elections to select rulers for our nation. We as citizens need to do something. If 50 lakh citizens were to stand up and say, they write about it, discuss it, talk about it in various places, over social media, over normal media, in meetings, etc., I'm sure a change will come. It's not so
Yeah.
difficult. 75 years back, we were able to throw out a foreign government from our rule. Now this is our own government. Surely we can get change. We are not trying. The average citizen is just given up. We need to create an awareness saying citizenship involves not just voting once in 5 years, but being concerned.
Yeah.
If 50 lakh Indian citizens take it up, I'm sure you are a young, very young person. You take
Yes.
it up. Spread it amongst your college friends that this is
Yeah.
possible.
Got it. Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Thank you.
Incidentally, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a normal bachelor of engineering I did, and that's all I studied.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalvi. And Ritika, you can also unmute yourself and ask your question. Or if not, Ritika was asking, why has the NJAC not been implemented?
That's because the Supreme Court struck it down. No, nobody's trying to say, I need a solution. The Supreme Court struck it down because it would ensure that some political interference could also come into the selection of judges. I'm not commenting on the merits of this, but I'm saying nobody is trying to find a solution. Everybody is saying, हमने decision दे दिया, खत्म हो गया. Government also said, ठीक है, NJSC नहीं तो नहीं सही. And citizens didn't bother. I hold citizens, myself as a citizen, as the ruler of this nation is responsible. I think if enough of us take responsibility for what's happening, we can get into a better India. Otherwise, we live in a fool's paradise.
Okay. We do have some comments in the chat if Tathagat would like to contribute.
Yeah, hi. Hello, everyone. So as Sir rightly pointed these issues out, and as a citizen of our country, and I'm also an advocate by profession. I just graduated last year after my BBA plus LLB. And right now I'm involved with a campaign, awareness campaign in Bihar. You might all have heard about it. Jan Suraj, led by Prashant Kishore. And this experience has been thought-provoking for me because I belong from Bihar. I have seen the ground reality on the ground itself. It is very stark reality, which has not been as a Bihari. I have also not seen this reality on ground, which is as it is today. So the things which Sir told today us, I believe these issues are mainly because of the pendency in the court, right? But at the end of the day, I believe everything in India has been about like public-led mass movements. As Sir also rightly pointed out, these things should be discussed at every level and every ecosystem of our country. But unfortunately, it is not the case in today's era. And at least we all are here discussing about it. And I believe this is a very proactive step in tackling these issues in the coming days. And I believe India has been nothing but a country of movements. And here, I don't believe no law or paper, no law or any procedure would be implemented only on paper. Be it the example of Mr. Kashiram in UP, or be it the example of Mr. Mahatma Gandhi when he took things in his own hands and took it out to the masses, the wisdom of crowd. So that's my piece, and I would like to just suggest one another thing, sir, which you rightly pointed out, and I have mentioned it in the chat as well. Like I believe the judges should be aware of this case, but in today's day and date, they are not getting the time, or the realistic situation might be something different from what we perceive. But how we can inculcate these things into their thought-provoking sense is that we should be at least recommending, or they should be at least, the judicial academy should be having a annual meetings regarding these things, how they could tackle these things. And am I clear? Because I think my internet is not stable.
No, we can hear you
Yeah,
clearly.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Hi. So I believe these things should be inculcated in the judicial academies itself. When a fresh batch of judges or anyone as an industry expert is joining, and at least they are talking about these things. And if you talk about certain things, if you communicate to a average person, he might be taking these things up or might be not. But a thought-provoking conversation should be there. Thank you. That's my piece.
Thank you, Diwakar. It's very thoughtful of you. I'm hoping you will take this up as your personal agenda.
Surely, sir. I was also thinking to write an article on it. I'll surely take this up also in the coming couple of months. We'll publish it somewhere.
And consider if your party would like to push for this. It concerns all of us.
Absolutely.
elected representative.
Thank you. I actually too have a question. This is a gap in my knowledge, but I was wondering within democratic institutions, who is meant to hold the judiciary accountable?
My own sense is citizens. I really take the description of democracy being rule of the people, for the people, by the people. I take it literally. And if you talk of it, if we are the ruler of this nation, we are responsible. And unless the citizenry does something, it will continue as a farce. Just as an example, I'll tell you, I did not want to go all out against the judiciary, but the Supreme Court ruled that those who want to stand for elections, who want to become public servants, must declare criminal charges against them. What is the logic of this? This is like saying tomorrow for a job, they will say, तुमको कितनी गाली किसी ने दी last year, वो बताना. Is this the way to look at something? Criminal charges may be filed against anybody. A person is guilty until proven innocent. And this simple logic has been defined. And the whole country is agog. Organizations are saying, yes, we got 40% criminals, 42% criminals. How absurd does this get? My submission is, if citizens start holding everyone accountable, the political class, see, in India, we've got used to the idea of holding the bureaucratic class accountable, holding the political class accountable. But the judiciary is above all this. Bole so nihal sat sri akal is the logic. I'm not saying we should criticize the judiciary, but we must take up issues with them and hold them to account also. We must hold all quasi-judicial bodies to account. In fact, my wider problem is information commissions, lokayogs, women's commissions, children's commission, human rights commissions. All these are not being held to account. Lokpal. These are all burdens on the Indian taxpayer. Tell me if you can think of any significant thing these people have done. I don't think it's happening. And we need to, and who will hold it to account? Unless we decide to get another country to colonize us. Only you and I can do it, my friend. And you more than me.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for such a data-driven and detailed conversation with us. And we at IMPRI hope you continue to collaborate with us in the future, and we hope to see you back very soon.
One last suggestion.
Of course.
Can IMPRI take this up as a policy matter? Groups like this are the ideal ones to take these causes further. If you are convinced, if you're not convinced, junk it.
I think that's definitely worth a conversation that we will be having internally. We'll keep you updated, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And individually, all of us are in various democratic rights, human rights organizations.
So we are taking it up. I had just one question about Lok Adalat, that in the women's movement during 90s, Lok Adalat had a locus standi, and where so many cases of gender-based violence, especially the dowry murders, domestic violence, the extremely brutal judgments by the Khap Panchayat and customary laws and all, they were taken up, and the state also, they work in collaboration with the state. Can't we come out with such thing where there is a bottom-up initiative which is recognized and acknowledged by the state? No?
Let us try as many avenues as people can think of. My submission is, if 20 people take it up as their ownership, it's their problem. Then if they keep thinking of it, trying to find solutions, we'll come up with solutions. Citizens of India will come up with solutions. But first, people must think it is their job.
Yeah.
Ideally, the court should think it's their job, but they are not doing it.
Correct.
Let us think of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even all the procedural aspects of the law, it was the movement which gave that, no? The way police was behaving was extremely cruel. How to take dying declaration, how to do the medical examination of survivor of violence, how to do the procedural work and the paperwork in case of domestic violence. Everything was taught to police and judiciary by the women's movement. So I think for all other laws, same thing will have to, because even for whether it's a forest law or disaster management responses and all, it is the people who are suffering, those who are at the receiving end of the system. They are the ones who are teaching. We remember, like for forest law, all the officers were made to sit as a participant, and it was the tribal women who were the resource person who were teaching them how to deal with the forest dwellers. No, so I think that kind of a democratizing initiatives will have to be taken, which were there in the 80s and 90s.
I'm hoping some of the younger people take this up.
Yeah.
I'm too old now.
No, you are younger than us. The speed with which you are working and the commitment and intensity.
Tathagat is asking if we can get the PPT.
Yeah.
If I would request the organizers to share the PPT and my article with all the participants.
Yeah. Even the readings are to be shared. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
You have shared
Thank you
the
very
readings also. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Once again, we look forward to having you back, and we really appreciate the amount of detail and care that you presented with.
Thank you.
We will now hear from Ms. Vishali Singh, a researcher at IMPRI, to introduce the components of the fellowship, creative project writing and presentation and publication, before our next speaker.
Thank you, Varshika. A very good evening to everyone. Am I audible?
Yes. Only thing, your face is visible, only half of it.
Is it better now?
You have to adjust your screen. Now it's fine. Now it's fine.
All right. Thank you. Right. So, as part of the fellowship component, we will be sharing the guidelines document and the reading resources with the participants. This is the document that will be shared over email with everyone. It is one of the components which includes detailed details of various creative projects component. We have also provided the section of about the fellowship, details of what is it about. We have also provided you the the snippets of previous cohort fellows and the research topics as well. Then we have the various contributions that has come across from the fellowship as an outcome is we have the, if you move on to the next slide, we have the event outcome report of our first cohort. Next, we have the research papers that our fellows have contributed, and it has been published as an ISBN book in an edited form. It is it is there at the IMPRI books website. We'll show you after this with the fellows as well. Moving on with this, we have also provided the various sections of what is the requirement. Moving on. Right. Right. So this is the part where the creative project details is provided. This shows that the book that is there, the name of the book is mentioned here, which is the LPPYF, an anthology of essays on advancing justice, bridging gaps in public policy enforcement. We have also listed out various themes as well, which can be taken up by the fellows. These are just broader themes that is there for your broader understanding that where all they can delve into with respect to the creative project. Also, fellows will have to submit a research article as well based on the creative project that they're going to submit, which will be published in the ISBN edited book, which will be released by IMPRI. If we move on to, right. So the very first component of the fellowship is that fellows are requested to submit their abstract. The abstract is going to be similar to what the creative project is going to be based upon. And this is going to be, the abstract submission is going to be of your research interest or anything you have heard from the speakers or any of the pressing issue that you feel requires attention, you can write upon it, which is supposed to be submitted in a 250 to 300 words document form. You can email to us at learning@impri@gmail.com. And we have also provided you the deadline, which is June 20th. Obviously, you can discuss the topics, your research title or the topic area that you wish to delve into. You can discuss it with our experts. We have Vibhuti ma'am and we have Shalu ma'am. You can discuss it with them, and further you can work on the research paper as well. If you move on to the next component, right, we have the research essay timeline as well. It is there in the guideline document. We have provided with detailed timeline that when all you're supposed to meet them. We have June 15th, which is the topic selection. Then we have June 20th, which is going to be the abstract submission that fellows will submit over email. July 9th is going to be the creative project presentation, and July 16th again is going to be creative project presentation. July 25th is going to be the final submission of the research essay. If we move on, right, we have the research essay guidelines also that we have mentioned in the guideline document. It states the style that the fellows are supposed to adhere to while writing the research paper, what all components is required that they are supposed to, which includes the references as well. If you move on to the next slide. Right, we follow the APA citation style. Fellows are requested to cross-reference as well of any of the references they have quoted in the text to avoid any kind of plagiarism or copy of the ideas from the original authors. Moving on. Right, we have also included a component of AI skill use for researchers. This is a list of various AI tools that researchers can take help or, try to develop how they want to, such as we have the research and information gathering. We have various different types of AI tools that they can use, writing assistance as well. Then we have the citation and reference management. If you move on to the next, right, we have the drafting as structuring as well, data analysis and visualization. If any of the fellows, they wish to delve into more data-oriented research, they can obviously perform Tableau, Excel, and AI. Then we have different kind of other AI tools as well. Then we have the AI writing assistants, and also very important component is the plagiarism checkers. We have provided you a list of various tools that they can use, such as Turnitin, Doubly Checker, which are free plagiarism checker as well, which is very important when you're writing a research paper to avoid any kind of copying or, taking ideas from the original authors. It's better to run through the plagiarism once. It's usually the UGC criteria is 10%. So you can adhere to 10% of plagiarism. And then we have the language and style improvement, and specific academic tools are also there. We have provided you everything in the guideline document. We move on to the next slide, please. We have also provided you with the layout of research essay, which will include the background and purpose and aim of the research. If you look at the second paragraph, it specifically mentions the layout, which includes purpose, aim of the research essay, the main body highlighting the investigation, study, analysis, followed by a review, findings, recommendation, and concludings of the researcher Also, you can write, you can attach various kind of photos, graphs, if they are available as part of your research at the end, which is the reference section for better understanding of your research. Then we also have we have provided you the various outline elements of the effective paragraphs. So moving on to next, right? Then we have certain guidelines for research ethics. We requested fellows to go through the ethics section as well, because it's very important when you're writing a research paper and getting it published. Moving on to the next slide. Right, we have the post-submission guidelines as well. Post-submission guidelines is where once you have submitted the research paper to us, or you have you developed a research report as well, where all you can get it published apart from the edited book that you will be submitting. We have provided you a list of various platforms that you can get your papers published as well, since it's going to be a paper which will go through a thorough review by experts from Vibhuti ma'am and Shalu ma'am. So you'll have a very rich outcome as well. So these are various platforms which we have mentioned here in the submission and publications at IMPRI. And also the publications outside of IMPRI where all you can contribute, such as we have the Economics and Political Weekly, SAGE journals. We also have a IMPRI journal as well. It's a peer review journal. You can submit your article at that front as well. And also you can contribute, you can submit it in various UGCK listed journals as well. Then you can give it for publishing in magazine articles. You can concise your research essay as per the requirements of the magazine articles, and then you can further get it published. OPED as well, submitting abstracts for paper presentations as well. If you go to, if the theme of the conferences that you have applied or seminars or workshops that you applied, if it aligns with your paper, then you can obviously present your paper there. Moving on, if we go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. Then we also have creatives for social media as part of your creative project. If you have delved into a more on-ground study, you can get snippets of the photographs of the study area that you're working on. So you can share it with us, that we can post it on the social media platform as well. You can obviously make a short reel or a short video as well to submit it. For that can be further shared at the IMPRI channel, YouTube channels, or in IMPRI social media channels. If we move on, right. We have also provided you a list of program experts, right, coordinators are also there. Right, we have also provided you the time structure itself in the guidelines document, day-wise, and when it is also, it includes a very important components when all the creative projects are going to happen, legal hands-on sessions are going to happen, when the essay research topic session is also going to happen. Moving on. We have the reading resources. That's what Shailesh has also mentioned, that he has shared a list of resources. We have included here in the guidelines document itself. We have all the listed. We have listed out all of it here. Moving on. We have provided you a list of rich resources that have been shared by experts. Right. We would also like to show you the previous cohort's contribution in the edited book. If we can have that, Priyanka. Right. So this is right. So this is here. It's available at impribooks.com website. This is from our first cohort that we have got various research papers submitted by our previous cohort fellows. You can look at the contents where they have provided the picked up different kind of research topics and the regions that they have engaged in. If we can move ahead, right. We can just show them the first page as well, right. So this is how it has been presented. It has been adhered with the guidelines document. This is the case study where they have clicked the photo and they have pasted it here itself to show more references. If we can go at the end, Priyanka, at the fellow's profile. So this is a list of our fellows, from where they have been, working on the research. They're from different backgrounds and disciplines as well. So you can see we always give a contributor section as well. We go to the next page. Right. So we have listed out all our fellows here in the book at the end section. Also, yes, we have our supervisors as well, Professor Vibhuti ma'am and Shaluji. And the editor section as well. It's a proper, yes. Apart from this, there's another book, which is the second cohort book, which has already been released and published. And there's an event outcome report books also that are released as part of this fellowship. Apart from this, we have also provided you a list on the event page, which you can go to and get. If you require any kind of assistance, you can write to us at learning@impri.com as well for any clarification, or if at any step you feel you need assistance, we can obviously get you connected to our experts, which is Professor Vibhuti ji and Dr. Shaluji. So we can help you connect there as well. For any clarification, you can obviously, we always have the session open. You can get it clarified here as well. That's it. Thank you so much. Over to you, Varishka.
Shalvi has a couple of questions about the fellowship in the Q&A box.
That can be taken up after.
Okay.
He's waiting. Yeah, please introduce.
Okay, thank you so much. So moving on to our next speaker, I'm honored to invite Mr. Sandeep Chachra, Executive Director of ActionAid Association India and advisor at IMPRI. He will be giving his inaugural speech on social inclusive justice. We welcome you, sir. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Vashuka, for welcoming me. And it's always a pleasure to be with Professor Vibhuti. Greetings, ma'am. And of course, Dr. Shalu Nigam, I can't see on the screen, Vaishali ji, and I can hear Dr. Arjun in the background. So thank you for having me here. How should I begin? Let me just say that it's an honor and a privilege to be here with IMPRI in this course, as we say, but focusing today, as I've been asked, on the question of what was listed in your topic as socially inclusive justice. It's I think, a very good start. Let me say, I would prefer to use the word social justice. It means quite the same thing. And I would, in the beginning, try and give my little two-point understanding of what I think with social justice before I move on to what I have to say. To me, social justice is an approach, is a thinking, a long-held dream of all of us, let me put it that way, of an egalitarian society, which looks at how wealth, well-being, health, opportunities, possibilities are distributed in any society. And a social justice approach, therefore, would imply that if there are access is unequally distributed, opportunities are unequally distributed, let's say, privileges are unequally distributed, then there needs to be a redistribution of those so that everyone's human rights in any society, which are stratified societies, which are unequal societies, as we know, historically unequal societies. So in that context, the redistribution therefore means everybody's human rights are protected, are respected, and also promoted. And we move as societies towards what I would call, embedded in that thinking of social justice, is just and equal worlds. So that's how I would, friends, in warmly welcoming you to this session, all of the 27 colleagues who are here, want to sort of lay out the assumptions and lay out what I think on the question of social justice and what kind of a world we on the ground, we as activists, we as researchers, we as people who believe another better world is possible, dream a just and equal world. So it's very much, let me put it in simple terms, it's been part of historical struggles. It's an imagination of historical struggles. Dr. Ambedkar is, pushed it in the Constitution of India. But that's how it's embedded in our hearts, the idea of social justice, the idea of justice per se, the idea of a just and equal world, that idea of an egalitarian society. So that's how I wish to start this discussion, this session, that time that I have. I also want to say, friends, that I work with ActionAid Association, as has been introduced. I also edit a journal called Agrarian South, which has the political purpose of seeking egalitarian, agrarian, and labor futures. So that's where my approach comes from. And today's session, I'm going to keep it very practical and simple from the perspective and tangible perspective that I see is possible. In the sessions that follow, I'm sure you will be exposed, as you always are in these sessions, to more academic, to more theoretical, to also more ideological debates, which I think are needed in any case. And where I want to come into this session is from the experience, and I want to keep it as in a practical situation, the experience of the last 6 to 8 months, notwithstanding all the other experiences. I want to focus on a people's agenda process and some of the lessons. I may not have time to pick up many lessons today, but some of the lessons, one key lesson, one key challenge that we have in our quest for social justice and what the resolutions need to be. Friends, I want to say that over these past 6 to 8 months, the organization that I'm committed to and I work for has, with support and leadership of 320 human rights defenders in about 300 or so districts, engaged in a process over the 6 to 8 months of actively listening to, of actively collaborating with, of actively seeking ideas from marginalized groups of India. Now, this process, which went through about 50,000 or 51,000 meetings in these 310 or so, 305 districts, let's keep it 300, through about to about 18.5 lakh people, mostly and almost exclusively, let me put it, from what you would call Bharat Ka Vanchit or Shoshit Samudaya. Now, that would mean in different geographies that these districts span in about 20 states, people who identify themselves as Dalits, people who are indigenous people or tribals, people who identify themselves as denotified tribes of India, people who are nomadic pastoralists of India, people who are agricultural workers of India, people who are minorities and discriminated minorities of India, women of India. So this spans across the fisher folk of India, the sugarcane workers of India, the bonded laborers of India, the salt pan workers of India. So we've sort of, this exercise that I talked of, the people's agenda, which essentially is an agenda of service and solidarity to the most oppressed of this country over the last 6 to 8 months, told us what, therefore, should be the agenda of social justice in the years to come. Now, how it gets used, where it gets used, in what kind of campaigns it gets used, let me not speak to that today too much. But let me say that essentially the people's agenda is an agenda for justice, is an agenda, I would say, centrally for social and ecological justice, words which are very closely related. And maybe if we have question answers time today, we will open it up on that aspect. Now, the issue, one of the issues that I want to pick up for a discussion today and a little bit illustrate in terms of the session we have today is the question of caste and work. So let me sort of use this broad outline, basis of the feedback which came from all of the groups that I mentioned. One of the central agendas in the world of work, in the overall Lebenswelt meaning the life world of majorities of our country, is the question of caste and work. And when I say caste and work, largely, obviously, what you call constitutionally the scheduled caste or the Dalits of India, but does not totally exclude others, such as the denotified tribes, such as the tribes of India, such as the nomadic pastoralists of India. Now, friends, as we know, and this probably is a no-brainer to university students, many of whom are here, to others, I saw the profile very quickly, but it's a no-brainer to say that the question caste is very central to the idea of division of work. And this we all know. Caste is one of the fundamentals, how the world of work has historically been segregated in terms of who will get what kind of work, and that too through generations. So we all know this. This probably is a no-brainer. And I think I just wanted to sort of state this upfront in case there are any issues with it. Now, we all know that at the lowest end of our social hierarchies, and that's why the question of justice is what we're building on, at the very lowest end of our social hierarchies are the Dalits of India. And they, as we all know, are castigated, pushed historically into the most, what is called ritually polluting occupations. In normal parlance, we call them unclean occupations. Occupations which are either ritually polluting, unclean, occupations which carry with them inherently the highest, not just the social ostracism, but the highest intensity of labor, of manual labor, the highest risk of labor, often even life risks of labor, which the caste called, which the Dalits of India have been castigated to. We all know this. Now, as we know, and this is what we heard, we all know that in the Constitution of India, the article, the fundamental right of equality, it has 5 articles. And of those 5 articles, if you look at the Constitution of India, which guides us, 4 of those articles are related to caste, the question of caste. If you look at the directive principles, the question of equality in work is one of the important driving forces of the directive principles. We all know this. Let me remind you that in addition to these, I'm just giving some examples, in addition to these, there are a host of legislations which overall, including in the world of work, although I'm speaking more to the question of world of work today, but overall in the life world of our people, push on ensuring that there are no atrocities. The acts which are devoted to preventing and prohibiting and outlawing atrocities, the Atrocities Prevention Act. We all know that in the same constitution, through the same constitution and driven by the same constitutional logic, we have other legislations. The Untouchability Act, it's from the last century, mind you. Yeah. So these are not new. Yeah. Even the Atrocities Act is not new. It has sort of manifested itself more powerfully in this century. Similarly, as far as the world of work is concerned, we have the Equal Remuneration Act, which ensures that there is no wage disparities, not just on the axis of gender, but also on all other axes, equal pay for equal work, so that no member from a scheduled caste community gets lower pay, which has been the case, which sometimes still perpetuates to be the case. Similarly, we also know that through these legislations, we have a host of other related legislations. The Bonded Labor Liberation Act of 1976, which was updated and amended, I presume, in 2014 or 2013. And now we have another central sector scheme with reference to, as a derivative of that Bonded Labor Liberation Act. We all know that we all welcomed the updated Abolition of Manual Scavenging Act, 2011 perhaps. That's the amended version, the updated version, the more empowered version, if we call it. The Bonded Labor Liberation Act, for instance, recognizes that a range of Dalit communities of India in agriculture work and beyond, including in newer forms of slavery, are consigned to bondage. So although it is not just caste-based, but the fact is it centrally recognizes the question of bondage and the question of caste. Similarly, as I mentioned, the Abolition of Manual Scavenging Act centrally focuses itself on the most unclean or most degraded and most stigmatized form of carrying night soil and outlaws it completely. We also have in our legislative domain, I'm just giving you a sense of what are the kind of constitutional provisions, friends, which push to ensure that there is an end to caste-based work. Similarly, let me also remind you, in the last century, were also a couple of acts, I think 3 of them, but at least a couple of them for sure, in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, which recognize the question of caste-based sex work. The Devdasi Prevention of Dedication Acts, the Dalit girls who were dedicated to temples and therefore dedicated often and ended up often in what is called caste-based sex work. So we have these, some of these provisions. But despite these provisions, during this process, whether it is with Dalit communities across, whether it is with de-notified communities, whether it is to some degree with other minority and, sort of the intersectionality of it, the Dalit Muslims, for instance, we heard time and again that the question of caste and in terms of caste-based work perpetuates. And it perpetuates perhaps on account of lacuna, perhaps on account of certain blind spots, perhaps on account of societal, the embeddedness of discrimination, the embeddedness of caste in our social thinking, in our society, the embeddedness of discrimination, it perpetuates. And therefore, while in many instances, de jure, it is not there, yeah? But de facto, that's the reality that people, majorities from the communities that I'm talking about face. डायरेक्टली एंड जैसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं अप्रत्याशित उसमें परिवेश में भी. Now, if our objective, if our quest is social justice, one of the key dimensions, friends, is our long-held dream, Dr. Ambedkar's dream, to annihilate caste. If we want to seek social justice, we have, in this context of the world of work that I'm speaking today, we have to, as a society, as a social progress, a quest for social progress, to annihilate caste in the world of work, isn't it? I mean, end of the day, you find that we find, and we talk about it, it's on our agenda, people's agenda. End of the day, we find, okay, manual scavenging might have been banned. There may be some perpetuation, but let's say that's a better situation. It's a situation of bad implementation of that. But let's look at burial grounds. Let's look at cremation grounds. Let's look at who are the people currently, despite all these legislations, despite all of these legislation in all of these states, who are the people who are doing cremation services? Who are those people who are largely in burial services? I'm giving a few examples. Let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Let's now visit the temples of India. And let's look at who are the priests of those temples. Let's look at who are the pandas in the temple. You go to any temple. So let's look at how, in the world of work, gendered as well, in many axes, caste perpetuates, caste is thriving. And I think that is our quest. If our quest is to seek social justice, then what we must do. Friends, we must also understand, and I rush through a bit, then have a little time, perhaps if I know how the format is, but if it allows a little interaction. So what therefore is happening and what therefore needs done? How do we sort of ensure that this century we reach our social quest, our justice quest, to see an end of caste in the world of work? That does not mean we just say, let's end caste in the world of work, but we have to end the embedded nature of injustice, social injustice in that world of work. That does not mean, for instance, ending reservations will get us to the quest of justice to annihilate caste in the world of work. It's not notional. That, in fact, on the contrary, means revitalizing reservations, revitalizing reservations in the private sector, revitalizing stalled, sort of progress in employment, even in the public sector, revitalizing reservations in services and in arenas where transitions in the world of work, which means outsourcing of work to private parties, is also ensured. So it means that, but it means much more than that. It definitely means much more than that. It means the very basis, the structural basis of caste needs to be questioned, challenged. It has been questioned, it has been challenged, but it must be attacked and addressed. It must be put to rest. The very structural basis of how resources and wealth, assets, ownership are distributed and how they need to be redistributed. So therefore, it means perhaps in a quest to ensure an end of caste in the world of work, caste-based work in all its forms, it means a range of other things. It means, for instance, in the agrarian societies, in the rural societies, the fundamental and the stalled question of land reforms. It means that a historical challenge of landlessness, of certain castes among us being castigated to be landless workers, to have no assets in the agrarian sector, is addressed. It means that unfinished agenda of land reforms is once again surfaced, and the redistribution of land, agrarian land, homestead land, happens to those who for the last 3,000 years, 2,000 years have been landless. Ancestrally landless, continue to be landless, will be landless should this agenda not be taken up again. It also means, therefore, friends, we need to figure out what the reality is. Some political parties, social activists have taken this up in the quest to ensure one of the ways you can address this question of caste-based work is to ensure a right to work for everybody. Some of the political parties tried to put it in the agenda. I think Congress has, or the left parties have, for instance, in this instance, the right to work as one of the fundamental directions of travel as far as the world of work is concerned. It also means, as the other parties have put, some of the parties have put, a socio-economic caste census to know where things stand, how distribution, what I spoke to in the beginning, stands today. What's the reality of it before beginning even redistributive efforts? It means what they call, or what activists call, or what we call caste census, to know where the backward caste, the EBC stand, where the Dalits stand, whose assets and property and whose ownership is being transferred. I wish there was timeline data available to it. That would have made the trends very clearly. It also means, friends, to my mind, the whole question of, sort of, if we now look at, intersect this with the world of work for women, with the world of work for Dalit women, it means many additional steps. I mean, that should apply more generally as well. So this logic or this idea is not only limited to women from Dalit community or women from tribal community or women from denotified tribes community, but it's more generic, but it definitely addresses the world of work for Dalit women as well, to understand that the idea of the world of work is not just the idea of the formal sphere of the world of work. The definitions of the world of work need to address the work women do at home, what often is called, the care economy or the care work, the time that they spend on serving their family, the time that they spend in revitalizing their families, in nurturing their families, in making the families run, in making the kitchens run, which therefore means that they progress. One of the elements of the progress to ensure an end to caste-based work, an end to ensure that that there is a dissociation and annihilation of caste in the world of work. It also means an equal progression as far as redistribution, as far as recognition, redistribution, and as far as in some instances people argue for remuneration. In fact, the Congress Party's manifesto, if you read it in these elections, was speaking to the idea of sort of compensating women somehow with 1 lakh rupees in recognition of the care work that they do tacitly. I don't think it was spelled out with that clarity, the clarity of thought, but tacitly it's meant that, the public services for women. But friends, I also want to then come to a more fundamental task, and that is the task of actually rigorously monitoring, rigorously reviewing, and perhaps, I think, in this quest to actually outlawing whichever arenas of our society caste continues to perpetuate. That may mean newer focused legislation. I gave an example of burial ground and cremation ground workers. I could very well give you an example of how particular de-notified tribe communities are historically and sort of in the world of work pushed onto begging. So one can go on with these examples in particular instances, but the point here to make, the larger point here to make, is how should we, perhaps there's a need to make more focused legislations with reference to ending particular forms of caste-based work, caste-based sex work in many instances, the Bedia Basha communities from the de-notified tribes, for instance. So you might need particular focused legislations in this regard as well. Now, friends, so in a way, if you look at a social justice approach, if you look at an idea of social justice, if you look at an idea of a society with social justice, if you look at an idea of future, which is a just future, in this question of a very narrow question, one can sort of now take examples on climate change and what is happening to communities from the lens of social justice, from the lens of ecological justice. But I'm not getting into all examples, but just suffice to say here, just to illustrate, the idea of social justice, therefore, is an opportunity for us to interrogate every current sort of social sphere or social reality. I took the example, which is not minuscule, by the way, which is not at all minuscule, by the way, but I took the example which is the reality, a life reality of around, sort of 20% or 25% people of our land. And therefore, the approach of social justice or the thinking of social justice would encourage and invoke us not just into arenas for policy reform, but arenas for social conscientization and social reform as well. Law, as other speakers would speak to you, law sometimes is a beacon. Law sometimes serves, legislations serve as a beacon to guide social behavior. But oftentimes, that's not the end. In my opinion, legislations serve as a beacon, a guiding light, an initial push, but much more social reorganization work, societal consciousness, what is called public conscientization is needed. Let's take the example of the Untouchability Act. The Untouchability Act is nearly by now more than almost 50 years old, or somewhere like that. It's almost 5 decades old. So the law, when it was developed in the last century, served as a beacon, served as a message to the society, but not enough other actions happened. So untouchability perpetuates even 50 years into the beck and call Prevention of Untouchability Act, into that initial initiative step, a ray of hope in the 20th century India, which says that there shall be no untouchability, it still perpetuates. And therefore, this, and we as ActionAid did a study in, it's a well-known study, Untouchability in Rural India, published in 2004. We revisited that study in 2014, 10 years into that process, published, I think the first study was published by Penguin. Do have a look. 139 forms of untouchability, if I remember correctly, perpetuated in 2004, which means double glass. The instances varied. In the 2014 study, while the forms of untouchability reduced, the intensity and the atrocities associated with what is called caste increased. So if we look at the 20th century India, and if we now look at the 21st century India, some would say, I mean, there's no definite data available on it, but some would say the levels of atrocities, the intensity of atrocities has possibly, if not the numbers, have increased over these years. And therefore, our idea of social justice, let alone in the world of work, in the more social sort of sense, still has miles to go before it rests and before we reach our goal. I stop here, Professor Vibhuti Patel, and maybe if you think there's time, we can have some interactions. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, sir, so much for laying out the foundation on caste. It's truly impossible to talk about justice in India without having that foundation. And before we move to the question and answers, I would like to invite our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, followed by our legal advisor, Dr. Shalu Nigam, to give their comment.
Thank you, Dr. Sandeep Chachra, for bringing out a very important discourse on caste. And I think as the Dalit entrepreneur, Milind Kamble, who established Dalit India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, he says that now I have reached a stage where people, other industrialists may not hesitate to shake hand with me, or they may even offer a cup of tea to me. But when it comes to enterprise development, when it comes to loan, credit, the kind of favors from the state and non-state actors with the caste Hindus get, he doesn't get. So that is again the point of material reality. The second issue is a second problem that we need to take seriously is what Professor Gopal Guru talks about, that the moral categories of self-respect, recognition, shame, dignity, humiliation, they're extremely important than only the instrumental way of seeing social justice, that efficiency, productivity, and that comes very much in case of women, because anytime you talk about gender budgeting or India getting $5 trillion economy, and they said if you leave out 50% of population of our country, then you are losing out in terms of productivity and efficiency. But they would not talk about the gender stereotype or the subordination. And this happens more so in case of caste. So how should we see social justice, not only from the point of view of the economic progress and this thing, but in a day-to-day, everyday experience, bringing up the issue of dignity and self-respect and the inclusivity. Because all the Dalit colleagues of mine, they said we are never a part of inner circle, whether you are in academia or in political party or in feminist movement or in social movement, you can never be part of. There can be paternalistic interests. There can be same level of food which is served to you. But when it comes to ownership and the camaraderie and the solidarity that you have, that they think that they still find it very lonely. In fact, if you see Dr. Sukhdev Thorat and Kacham Shah's series of reports on discrimination in campus, and I also had all the Dalit and tribal students were generally, they were referred to Patel Bhai. In Maharashtra, they call me Patel Bhai. And that loneliness one has seen, deep loneliness. And Rohit Vimula was the most tragic, his suicide note that we saw, that how very centrally this thing, NAC accredited A+ university, the student of science had to face discrimination and loneliness. So at that level, what can we do in the everyday reality? Reservation, quota, affirmative action, yes. Or
So,
we follow the path of South Africa. You just don't bother about the white races. You create your own community. That's also African National Congress had shown us that, okay, these are the two worlds. Nathan Gordimer also said that.
yeah,
these
but
two worlds
that
have nothing to do.
absolutely, but that only leads to a possible possibility, and I think it's a debate which is not off, of separate electorates.
Correct.
Yeah. So that part, and I think nothing is off the table. If our idea is to ensure an end to all forms of discrimination, which are structural in nature. So as you're right, it's not just behavioral questions, yeah? So which have a structural basis, and which also have a basis in culture, and which also have a basis in how we view the world. If these are not annihilated, then possibly the only other, and if we don't see a justice possibility, then perhaps the path of separate electorates is not off the cards. So in South Africa, that's probably the danger. Whether we call it a danger, whether we call it a possibility, these are debates which I think in the kind of discussions that you and Dr. Arjun and Dr. Shalu and others at IMPRI and are leading, and in the academia, I think these need to be had. You see, the very basis of why a socio-economic caste census is needed and why it has become a political question now in these last few years. I mean, it was always a question on the ground, but why it has now been, sort of recognized by mainstream political parties, which would probably 2 decades ago would have shied away from it. At least there's a national debate.
Yeah, even in the Bharat Yatra of
Yeah,
Mr. Rahul Gandhi,
absolutely.
that was the central issue when he was traveling in all the tribal
because
areas in this.
you're right, Professor. The point is, it never reached. It was always there, but they never recognized it. But it has got so loud. Then what has to? Why did this come? This comes from the fact that we are not only is inequality increasing, and inequality is not increasing in some secular manner. It is increasing, but it is particularly who is the unequal today, whose resources are lost. I think that's an important question to study. Equally well, we know who is gaining those resources and what's the caste composition of that transfer, if I may call it. What's the social composition of the transfer of resources at the intersectionality of class is an important question, and that is how this idea of this whole push to the caste census comes. It comes from many states, comes from Bihar, it comes from Uttar Pradesh, it comes from Maharashtra. So I do agree completely with you that this whole issue cannot only be left. And therefore, I think there are many questions, and I completely concur with you that there can be no sort of justice without gender justice. I mean, it's no debate. But what does gender is? What is this social justice approach to gender relations? I think that also needs to be looked into. How do we build the two together? And I think feminist activists, Dalit feminist activists have been talking to it very powerfully.
And very articulate, extremely.
And the students who are here, the participants who are here, friends, I think this is just an introduction to you. But I think my idea was to encourage you to look into those readings. Patriarchy, Brahmanism, these are dimensions. If we have not looked into, the idea called social justice is incomplete. In our context, or race and patriarchy, if we haven't looked into, our quest is incomplete. And in the question of South Africa, Doctor, you raised, I think the question of race, the Rainbow Nation doesn't end it.
It doesn't.
And we are beginning to see regressions on that axis in the current South African elections.
Correct. Yeah.
But I just limit it to that. But I think it's very
Thank you.
interesting.
But good, yeah,
what
it's
we have-
going to have a main ripple effect, I think.
Yeah.
Today's lecture is really very important historically, very significant. Thank you.
Yes, so my question is also a related question about, the violence against women, the rape we have been seeing among the layer of intersectionality where Dalit women are being raped and, a lot of such sexual violence is taking place. And so in terms of that, there is a kind of resistance from the ground. Now, since you're working in the field, like, how are you dealing with this issue of violence against women among, and the question of intersectionality? Because, yeah, as you rightly said, that patriarchy and, different kind of patriarchies exist and they are affecting women. So how should we go about, changing that or, addressing that issue? How to counter that violence? Because that is a kind of day-to-day violence which women are facing every day. And how should we go about that? And in your field work, like, you have been dealing with a lot of these women and their groups and how they are, questioning this issue.
I think I mean, on a more practical note and a little bit more than that, let me say that you are absolutely right. We run 2 one-stop crisis centers in the state of Madhya Pradesh. And we have been running these for the last 8 years. One for the last 8 years, which is called Gauravi, another for the last 1 year or so, yeah, in Indore. The first one is in Bhopal. Now, what do we see? There's data. I can't disclose all the data because by names of women and so on and so forth. But just offhand, let me give you some tendencies. One, violence becomes, and these are centers, one-stop crisis centers, as friends might know. These are one-roof shelters to provide medical support, legal support, counseling, and also possible, of course, stay and all, but also possible livelihood futures to women who are battered, and to women who've have had faced violence in whichever way, some more intense than others. So what have we noticed there? One, that the intensity of violence increased, the rape question that you talked of, the multiple rapes, for instance. Yeah. Second, that you see younger and younger girls coming to seek sort of or getting to the center, or we getting them, yeah, through outreach. Girls as old as 3 years old or even smaller. Yeah? So let me not get into those kind of things, but just to say that violence is becoming more intense, and the societal anger shows, the patriarchy, the patriarchal invasion shows. And secondly, you see the age shift. So it's not. I mean, you find a lot of very young girls. I mean, stitched all over and so on and so forth, and it's not a pleasing place to be. And it's a place where you work long. You possibly need counseling. Anybody of us, our teams are there for 24/7. Yeah, but from that perspective, and there's of course a class and a caste question. Since you just mentioned, this is not a neutral space. Yeah? But therefore, to your issue, let me just reflect the following way from the ground. I think that the issue of liberation, it's not liberation of women, it's the liberation of society I'm speaking of. By no means am I saying women need to be liberated. Yes, that's another axis. But here is the liberation of society from patriarchy, consigning the institution of patriarchy to the dustbin of history. So what does that mean? Needless to say, I think in our ground experience, you can have an enabling legislative space. I spoke to some of those issues. Say for instance, on the care economy, say for instance, on strengthening the acts. The act has been strengthened, but then enabling the institutional mechanisms such as the local complaints committees, which are totally inactive at the moment, and which is where informal workers can get to, which is where rural women can get to, which is where women in agriculture can get to, in the villages can get to. They're inactive. That's an area of reform, but that's the legislative space. Huh? It needs a push. It needs a demand. and it needs a campaigning and advocacy that we all speak of. But on the other hand, I think this whole issue of agency of women or the agency of people, I think that's the game changer. And there I see hope. I am speaking from a ground perspective. You may disagree with me, but I think women are organizing. I think women are asserting. We work, Dr. Shalu, in 13 cities with in an initiative called Young Urban Women. Yeah? Now, these are adolescent girls from the slum settlements of these 13 cities, and I'm in Lucknow at the moment. The sessions with them and others, with the human rights defenders that I spoke of in the first, are going on. There are about 300 people gathered here. And among them, there are about 40 of these young activists, or 35 of these young girl activists, adolescent activists from these 13 cities. And if I look at the caste class composition of the group, they are from slum settlements of these cities. They are largely either Dalit girls, and they speak to their realities, or they are OBC and scheduled tribe girls, depending on which city. The girls in Ranchi are more tribal, for instance. But they're largely from what you would call the socially oppressed, historically oppressed majorities of India. When I see their energy, when I see their agency, when I see the articulation and the issues that they raise beyond their own bodies, so it's not just only limited to me and myself and my recognition as a woman and my self awareness as how powerful I am. It begins there. But when I see their assertions on issues, when I see their assertions on agendas for justice, be it the reclamation of the city, be it the right to the city, or be it the question of, I mean, not micro projects only, be it the question of this whole question on violence against women, this whole question on the what often is called in the cities, in the urban areas, the bystander question, that some chirkhani is happening, some violence is happening, and you people sit around, stand around taking photos or just walk past. When I see their leaderships there, I get a lot of hope. And I see this in rural India. We see this in rural India. Assertions by women, led by women, organized by women, on not just against violence, but on all of these other justice issues that I spoke of, occupations of land, for instance, assertions to get housing titles on their name, for instance. And I think that to me is changed from what it was 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago. I've been in this space for roughly about 3.5 decades. Yeah. I think there's a progress there. Whether it's the enabling laws and policies of the past which caused it, whether it is what is called increased conscientization, not just through mass media, but through social movements, for instance, which has caused it. The causative factor, or what's called the causal relationships in academic terms, are difficult to narrow down and define that this caused this and this caused this, but there is an ecosystem of causative, what is called causal relations. I think one sees that progress. I think the only way for liberation of our society at this moment, we all want feminist men. We all want men who would join the struggle. It's always welcome. But the leadership I see is coming from the agency of women, be it fisherfolk women, be it denotified tribes women. So there's assertions going on, and law would change, because in the end, I don't think there is a possibility in the realities of the societies we live in of top-down imagination of laws. People are pushing at the boundaries. And even the instance I was giving of socioeconomic caste census didn't just come from an imagination of some party or some set of academics or some sort of NGOs and so on and so forth. It's the push from the ground. Yeah, it's the push from the oppressed castes of India from the ground, be it the EBCs, for instance, or the Dalits, for instance. In this instance, also I see that push is real. So this whole issue of reservation is not that some party decided that we'll give you reservation and therefore it manifests. I think it's going to 50%. It should probably go beyond. I am a bit more optimistic. Forgive me for that, but that's the sense. Unapologetically, let me state it. That's the ethos and the sense. People like us, I mean, in this people's agenda process I spoke to, I was last with about 3,000 or 2,800 rural domestic workers in Punjab, women. Yeah, it's category called rural domestic workers. It's called Guha Kuda workers in Punjabi. Essentially, गाय को भी भैंस को भी देखना है, उसका भी एक्सीटा साफ करना है, दूध भी निकालना है, घर पे भी काम करना है, 500 रुपए में करना है, बहुत ज़्यादा यार इंडेटेड, credit is the indebtedness is huge issue. The kind of power and the kind of push that they have made to turn that reality into a political question, to interrogate all of these parties that go there, will definitely find a resolution, if hopefully sooner rather than later.
Thank you, sir. It gives a lot of hope. That yeah, on the grounds things are going, in a positive direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I would like to open the floor for questions. You can put it in the Q&A chat box.
You can unmute and speak. That's also.
Yeah, raise your hand and unmute and speak as well.
Yusuf Abdul.
Hello, I have a question. Excuse me. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Actually.
yeah, I'm a trained lawyer and I'm working with Rural Development Institute now. So I think so, sir has given us a lot of hope, but my experiences in that institute has been hasn't been so much optimistic. I think that what came to my mind after joining Rural Development Institute is like how to use like law as a tool of empowerment, of emancipation of women. So I realized that I think as lawyers we are trained like too much to focus on law to focus on law as a quick fix solution. So, but that's not the case. Like for example, I said, I found that despite like a very robust law mechanism like domestic violence act, women don't show up. Women don't file cases. Women don't file like divorce cases against their men because of social taboos and like the social and cultural and structural inequalities. So, and what I feel is like the conferences, as law students, and we are all obviously like exposed to critical issues like women empowerment. But the language through these, like the language used in these conferences, I think it creates a divide. We can't disseminate the language. We can't disseminate the knowledge that we have to the rural masses. That is what I feel. Like I worked as a resource person, and I couldn't find like how to address the issue in the local language. So these issues that we talk about, be it women empowerment, be it like intersectional approaches to feminism, the feminist discourse that we're happening, or the language used in such cutting across like cutting academic conferences is such that how to disseminate the knowledge to the masses. Since law, I found that law is not the quick fix solution. There are structural inequalities, and that demands like a change in social thinking.
Okay, sorry, and thanks for this very important question. Let me just quickly reflect on it. I cannot respond. There's big issues that you raise, and I think you will find your own answers through this course and beyond in your life worlds. But let me say, give few reflection. The first point I'd like to say, हिंदी में बोल देता हूँ, अंग्रेजी में भी बोल दूंगा, कि कानून एक संघर्ष के लिए औजार बनाता है. Meaning law is an instrument which social struggles use. Essentially, I think law is important, so you should be more optimistic. It doesn't look like in the first instance, but a good law gives impetus and an instrument, an aujar, a weapon, in a polite way, let me put it, to the agency of people, to the struggles of people. I was speaking about the agency of women. Acha Domestic Workers Act उनके लिए आज नहीं तो कल बन रहा है जमीन पे, औजार बनता है बराबरी, इनजस्टिस, न्याय लेने के लिए, जस्टिस लेने के लिए, न्याय लेने के लिए, और ये एक औजार बनता है पहली बार. So I think there is this context I'd like to. Secondly, for sure, a good law or a good legislation does not, I have given the example of an Untouchability Prevention Act, does not in itself mean anything. I mean, that works if the state diligently, efficiently, expansively implements it, which is really the case, not just now, in the past as well. Yeah. So a good law is equal to how good the implementation or not. Yeah. So you can have lots of paper legislations. We've had some 45 labor legislations, but in the past, and now new labor codes, but the condition of labor on the ground, well, you can talk to them. Yeah. So it needs much more than that. The second point that you were speaking to. The third point, I think the point is, with which idiom are we building this thinking? And I think you're absolutely right. The academia, the NGOs, the intellectual ecosystem, and this, we all are part of it in some way or another, is quite diverse from the idiom of what I will not just call it language. So it's not just a question of translation, it's the idiom. And I think the question of developing popular thinking, the question of what one can call the combine between what is called the hiatus between knowledge and activism, or the issue of popular thinking and the issue of popular idiom and the issue of popular communication is an important one, is a very crucial one, which therefore means if we do that well, if that happens well, through whichever mechanisms, through the state communication, agencies communication, academic communication, NGO communication, whichever way, people's movements communication, it helps. Else, you can have a great sounding sort of full of jargon law, the PESA law, the extension of the Panchayati Raj extension into scheduled areas of 1997, the act. And what you see on the ground? Nothing. People don't even know about it. And not one place have we got significant progressions as far as the PESA Act and the imagination of PESA Act into prior informed consent, self-governed tribal areas hasn't really advanced in this 25, 27 years now. So yes, this whole issue needs to be dealt with. Give you, and therefore that means a range, the most important element becomes how do we build social consciousness, people's consciousness into any of these legislative gains. Let's take the example of a recent pronouncement by the Supreme Court, 22nd of March this year. It says that it has brought the issue of right against climate change for the first time, invoking both the article on equality, but also protection against the adverse impacts of climate change in a differential manner. So it's now almost possibly means that the future is ready for a new legislation around climate justice. The future is ready, which also means you can, a set of analysts, set of academics, set of lawyers, law institutes can sit together and conveniently make a new legislation on climate justice for India. But that probably is the wrong direction. I think we, for instance, tomorrow are discussing here on how to now popularize the Supreme Court judgment amongst the various marginalized communities of India, and how, and this is what the People's Agenda process I was speaking to, how to build their ideas and solutions of what should be the possible path, and therefore the possible idea of a legislation, and therefore the possible content of the legislation on climate justice from that perspective, from that popular perspective, from the people's perspective. So top-down legislations with very what is called fashionable kind of tick mark consultative mechanisms don't help, because they rarely address the real issues. And even if they address the real issues, which they do sometimes, then there isn't demand for it because people just don't know what's happening. So I think that whole issue, sir, that you raised is extremely vital. And as a the ground, we see this hugely, yeah, on everything. You name it. Labor laws, I gave those examples. The Equal Wages Act. Yeah, what now it's subsumed under the labor codes.
Yeah.
But where do you get equal wages?
Most violent. Yeah.
I found it really strange that women were like intentionally they like relinquish their inheritance right just
Yeah,
to
yeah.
keep up with their family member. Yeah.
You know, my
To
friend,
preserve their family.
no, I think that will change. I can tell you with confidence that's changing. So what you say, forgive me, but I would not agree 100%.
no, even I am optimistic. It's not that I'm optimistic.
No. But I see that happening. People
Yeah.
are, they used to, but look over 3 decades. I
Yeah.
think.
But what the point which I also wanted to raise is like during our like academic journey in law schools particularly, we try to see law like we try to emphasize law a little too much as a quick fix solution for almost every problem in the world because it regulates behavior, be it technology, policy, be it women empowerment, be it anything. You just name it, but the ground realities are different.
I completely agree with you. And this construct, which is only limited to what I would call the elite and the semi-elite, and which is not connected to the what is the reality and what is the majority of our society, is going to create that contradiction. And you're absolutely right. And I completely agree with you.
I think these conversations like remain only available to a few, and we need to like do something about it. And there is always a language divide, like which I've personally felt. Like I was raising up the issue of free legal aid, and I said it's the state's responsibility. Then I found the crowd which was listening couldn't like comprehend what I'm saying. Then I didn't know what to say, how to address state and uh, responsibility in their local language. So this is my personal experience which I'm giving.
Very nice. Thank you. Very nice.
Just add a sentence like there are a lot of organizations, NGOs who are taking up the cause of legal literacy. So you can also, refer to these kind of NGOs because they have produced a lot of literature, like Samvidhan Constitution को simplify किया है and demystifying all other kind of laws. And if you look at the women's movement, the domestic violence law 2005 was made, with a lot of efforts by the women's movement. So we'll talk about it later on, but the things are happening at the ground level. The thing is that we have to link it up to our work, to their work, and to know what are the things which are happening at the ground and how to interact. Because simple thing like you said about ki कैसे बताएं कि what is state. So okay, सरकार क्या करे, all those kind, and lot of if you see the RTI movement, a lot of slogans have been come from the ground level, like Mera Paisa Mera Hisab, those kind of slogans have been come from the ground. So a lot of things are happening, but we just need to law college में वो नहीं पढ़ा रहे हैं, that is a different issue, but those things are happening. Just
yeah.
Salvation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shalvi also has a question.
Hi, I just have a quick question. So I reside from Gujarat, and I am working on a project which is called Project Mass. It's an initiative. It's about menstrual awareness, hygiene, and sanitation. So, sir, as you suggested, I mean, with your experience, on-ground experience with ActionAid, and I mean, what we are facing as this particular initiative, as a project, we as the team members, what we are facing as there is a behavioral change which is lacking amongst women when it comes to menstruation. When we also, ask them that how can you create a shift from just not utilizing sanitary napkins, and how can you talk about it out loud? So I just wanted to understand from the experiences that that you have had, how can actually a young people like us who who want to make a change, how can we actually make this work on ground when we go on the field?
If there are more questions, otherwise I'll respond
No,
to
this
this.
is all.
No, thank you. I'll respond for sure from
Yeah.
my experience. But if there are any other questions from the participants, I'm aware of eating into the time. So you please guide. If you want more questions, please have them. I'll answer them together. And what answer? I'll reflect them together. Yeah. So if there are none, are any other people interested in? You have any questions? I don't see. Yeah. So yeah, on menstrual hygiene. So recently we were like you celebrating the menstrual hygiene day.
Yeah.
So, and I think I for one was celebrating it, sharing all the different efforts my colleagues are doing on the ground in different states. More than my colleagues, the young girls themselves are doing in coming out in the open, visualizing it, talking about it, celebrating it. So there's a festive atmosphere. It's not just on that day.
Correct.
But your question really was, what do we do on this subject, which was a huge social taboo.
Yeah.
And in certain countries, women were consigned to separate huts. Nepal, for instance.
In Maharashtra also,
Yeah,
Chandrapur, whole of Vidarbha.
yeah. So I think, of course, there's progress, but I do feel coming for us as social workers to celebrate, talk about the question of menstrual. It's not just about hygiene I'm speaking to. The
Yeah.
question of menstruation needs is an important area. Hygiene is a second issue I'm speaking to. The first,
Yeah.
how do we break the taboo around the question of menstruation,
Yeah.
which is integral part of a patriarchal, sort of system, consigning women to all forms of, let me say, unfreedoms. Let me use a polite word, not bondage, but unfreedoms during the days, the impurity, the ritual impurity. So I
Correct.
think the point, my understanding, we work on those issues. We work with the agency of girls, and I think the important question is to work with young girls,
Yeah.
is to work with pre-adolescent girls, is to work with boys in
Yeah.
schools, and that is how we have approached this issue. Apart from celebrating days which are important and symbolic to do, but I think the if you want to see change in future, you have to work. Uh, uh, in our understanding, it's limited. But let
Yeah.
me say, my lesson is to work. Our lesson is to work with young boys and young
Good.
girls, pre-puberty girls, pre-puberty boys, to engage the question of bodily education, sex education. These are issues which are only at this moment very, very limited to certain middle class schools or certain elite schools and
Right.
largely in urban India. And I think our efforts, therefore, must begin at the other end, must
Right.
begin in government schools, must begin in what I call public schools, social
Yeah.
schools, must begin across of rural India
Mm.
in the secondary schools of India. And I think that's where we must begin in the late primary schools, the secondary schools. And that's my sense. Much of communication, much of efforts around this matter have been limited to what I spoke first,
I
have
agree.
been limited to a particular type of convenient ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I look at it, ma'am.
So that is what we are doing. I mean, what we are doing is that in the government schools that we have been in, adopted under Project Mars, which lack the number of the funds. We are preparing a teaching module for them that not only academics but the sexual education or menstruation are some of the topics that could be inculcated as a part of the curriculum.
It helps, for instance,
Yeah.
to make available sanitary pads. It helps,
Yeah.
for instance, to make available free sanitary pads and openly available in
Correct.
schools. it brings the issue out of the arena, which is a patriarchal taboo.
True.
That's how I think it helps. All these issues help.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So I think most important, menstrual dignity, very much,
Yeah.
because the way boys tease them, or the family members also segregate them, or the way, like, call the ritual impurity, as you told, Baba Sahib also said that 1/6 of the
True.
life of reproductive age of an Indian woman, she's untouchable. So there is what Dalits are facing, she's also facing. So I think the
Correct.
dignity is also an important issue, not
Yeah.
only just technological solution, whether in Bombay they are promoting now this thing, cup, menstrual cup,
Yeah. Yeah.
or some of them are promoting the tampon also in some of the this thing. So that is a technological solution, yes.
Yeah.
But most important fundamental issues that are
Correct. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's all for the questions. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Chachra. We really appreciate you coming and talking with us about something so important and really laying the foundation for the rest of our understanding of justice and how intersectionality works and casteism and all of that. We hope to see you again, and we hope you continue to collaborate with IMPRI. And thank you so much.
Thank you, and my best wishes to all of you. It's been good joining this. I wish you all well. I wish you all further interrogation on which I think is one of the fundamental questions of the 21st century, the question of social justice. And I'm glad that you began with that. Thank you, Professor Patel and Shaluji and yourself, Pushka, and best wishes to all participants. And thank you, Dr. Arjun and the IMPRI team. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Before we conclude, we would love for our fellows to introduce themselves. And just before that, I'm sharing on our chat our socials in case anyone wants to reach out to us or follow us on our socials. And just for our fellows, to share your camera, if you could just accept the joining, if you join us as a panelist, it'll come up on your Zoom. If you accept that, you'll be able to share your video. And we'd love for you guys to introduce yourself, share your name, your designation, organization, where you're joining us from, and what prompted you to join us on this platform through this fellowship.
There were 3 questions also about submission of project and all.
Those were answered already.
Oh. And I think even that booklet can be shared in chat. And if those who have not been able to download it from email can download here. The patient can share it.
Okay. Can the participants see the option to join as a panelist? No? Okay. Why don't we start with the introductions anyway while we figure this out at the back? I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna go off with whoever I see on my screen first. Tathagat, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So my name is Tathagat Shivansh, and I hail from Bihar. And for the past 6 to 7 years, I've been residing at Delhi mainly for my education purpose. I am a law graduate, BBA plus LLB 2023 pass out. And as a typical law student, I have been interested in the corporate side of the law aspect, but after I completed my degree, some things started to come into my minds, and I thought, why not try a different approach in my professional journey? And so I started to look out for the fellowships and all, started with the LAMP application, and thoroughly I sorted it out till where I am today. I'm in the core team of Mr. Prashant Kishore in the Jan Suraj awareness campaign, which has been an awareness campaign since for the past 1.5 years, like 1.5 years. It started on 2nd October 2022 from West Champaran in Bihar, from where Mr. Mahatma Gandhi had started his journey. And the Yatra, the campaign has been following its route all over Bihar. The main purpose behind this is to create an awareness or to generate the idea why your condition is so pitiable that the whole nation is using the term as your name Bihari as a slang. And Mr. Prashant Kishore has been visiting each and every panchayat since 1.5 years. And till date, he has covered on foot 5,000 plus panchayat out of 8,000 panchayats in Bihar. So this has been my journey, and in my career progression, I see this opportunity as at LPPYF to inculcate certain more information and knowledge what the industry trend is in the public policy domain in today's date.
Thank you so much. I think now the camera is working. Can everyone accept that? Because I see Shalvi. Actually, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Shalvi?
Sure. Hi, my name is Shalvi. I reside in Gujarat. I am a graduate from Bachelor's in Business Administration with my majors in Finance and Economics. And I have been a SUSI alumni for Young Women Leaders in Public Policy Making, and I'm the gold medalist for my batch. Right now, I'm working for a project which is called Project MAS, Menstrual Awareness, Hygiene and Sanitation. And along with that, I've been recently accepted for Indian School of Public Policy. So I'll be pursuing 1 year for the public policy course at ISPP. So with the Project MAS initiative, we are educating girls about menstrual hygiene. And not only that, in addition to that, we are educating them about sexual reproductive health and their rights.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I ask for Deepanjali? Or maybe not. I'm seeing Yusuf. Yusuf, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Yusuf. I'm a student of I'm a law student from Punjab University. I have previously studied political science honors in Central University of Andhra Pradesh, and I have been a social activist also in my university and outside my university also. So that made my interest for this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Zarna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Maybe not. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Very nice to meet you. I'm Jharna Udasi from Ahmedabad, Gujarat. I'm a working professional with over a decade of experience in media and communications, research and development, and policy. So I've been working with Confederation of Indian Industry, Gujarat State Office, and basically what we do is we take the voices of industries to the government, and we do a lot of policy representations with various sectors. So technically I've been in the field for almost 3 years, and I've been working a lot with Gujarat government for the same, but I've never had any formal training as far as policy development is concerned. So I thought this should be a good start to it, and I'm very happy to join the course. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can we hear from Khushbu? Or
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Khushbu, and I've submitted my PhD at the Central University in Lucknow. I'm a university gold medalist, double master's in tourism and sociology. My association with law has been since I had an opportunity of teaching at a law college here for 2 years as a guest faculty. I have almost 5 years of experience in a public relations firm, and I'm keen in developing more insights into this particular field.
Thank you. Trupti? or Samiran, or anyone can go next, really.
Hello.
Yeah.
My name is Ishan. I'm in second year. I'm currently pursuing bachelor's in political science. So I saw this fellowship on LinkedIn actually, and then I just really wanted some exposure in the field of public policy because it's related to my course, and doing this fellowship would also help me in my foreign applications. So I just really wanted to explore the field. I was not very sure about this because the law aspect, because I don't have a law background, but then when I joined this, I think I am in the right place because yeah, that was about my interest on this.
We're
Yeah.
glad. We're glad you feel that way. Anyone want to go next?
Can I go next?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah. So I am Ehsan. My name is Ehsan, and I did my LLB and LLM from both from Jamia Millia Islamia from New Delhi, and I did my LLM in personal laws, family laws, and which are inherently gender biased. So that promoted my interest in gender justice, advancing toward making any contribution towards advancing the gender equality. So right now I'm working with rural development uh, in Lucknow. So, and I'm seeing what possible contributions can I make in my capacity. I've I've organized many literacy programs, gender sensitization programs in the past 1 year, but it all has to happen through concerted efforts. There are problems, there are lack of funds, but let's see how it goes on. It's true to what I set out to do in the very first place. So, like I'm enjoying it.
Thank
That's
you. Anyone else want to introduce themselves? I think we haven't heard from Ritika or Ganesh very.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ritika Pandey. I am from Bihar. I graduated in 2023 from Calcutta University with a specialization in BCom honors. I was preparing for civil services and I gave my first attempt in 2023. During my preparation, I developed interest in public policy, government schemes, and the laws. Right now, I'm an editorial assistant intern at IMPRI, and just few days back, I got to know about this opportunity, this fellowship. That's why I'm here.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can
I go next?
Of
Am I
course you can. Yes, you are.
Hello everyone, good evening, and I'm Gyaneshwari Pandey, graduated in law, BA LLB from Pune University last year, 2023, pass out. And during my graduation, I was doing many internships related to law and social sciences. So I was working with All India Human Rights Commission and NGOs and in this field. So during that and after graduating, also have tried my hand in litigation as well. But what I felt was it was really not my cup of tea, and doing something in the social field was what I was craving for. And with that, I found the public policy, which is very essential in addressing societal challenges and improving overall well-being of individuals. So I just decided to go for masters in public policy so that it can help me with my knowledge and skills to shape more equitable future and my career as well. So few weeks back I have applied for master's programs in public policy and related to it, and going with it and giving my interviews, I just came across this like yesterday only I have come across this fellowship program, and I just applied it. I got a call today that have you paid or not, and I landed up here. So I'm very grateful that I did apply here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Okay, I guess not. Thank you for sticking out with us towards the end. I would just like to give a formal vote of thanks. So as we come to the end of day 1 of the LPPYF Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship, Cohort 3, Summer of
We can also
2022.
Varushka, we can also have closing remarks by Professor Patel. Ma'am, would you like to summarize?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. I think both the experts today, Mr. Shailesh Gandhi as well as Mr. Sandeep Chachra, he brought out a very important concerns about law on paper. So the gap between de jure and de facto reality, and for which the analytical category of social inclusion becomes very important, because social inclusion is the process of improving the terms on which individuals and groups take part in the society, improving the ability, opportunity, dignity of those disadvantaged on the basis of their identity. In every country, as we got the example of South Africa, we got example of Australia from Mr. Shailesh Gandhi's presentation, and also in our country, that some groups who confront barriers that prevent them from fully participating in political, economic, and social life. So many examples given by Mr. Chachra signified that. So social justice is both theoretical concept, as I told you about Gopal Guru and Dr. Sukhdev Thorat, Ghanshyam Shah, or Sundar Surukai, if you are familiar with the work they have done on dignity and self-respect. And it is not only just social justice in terms of quota or in terms of some affirmative action of some freeships and scholarships and this thing, it is also the dignity of a person. So that is a very important thing. So we need to go beyond the instrumentalist approach of social justice. Why do you need social justice? So that you can mainstream them into the overall economic development, and that's how your economy will develop. That's not the only thing. Dignity and self-respect are equally important. The practical ideal that is an object of social, scientific, and philosophical understanding and debate, as well as the real-world goals of social and political reform movements, are extremely important. Both, especially Mr. Chachra also talked about how Dr. Ambedkar was driven by this goal of social and political reform movement throughout his life, throughout the major actions that he took, even when he was in power and where he was not in power, and also through the Constitution, which is now a so important central document. The constitutional morality becomes a very important concern. And that's what also talks about the social justice, affirmative action for those who are historically neglected and who were excluded. So inclusion directly linked to the social justice rather than disability proffers a view of inclusion as a social justice in both theory and practice. So it is not your social disability or cultural disability, mental disability or physical disability, but it is a question of inclusion that has to be conceptualized as a political perspective that aims to reorder social arrangement. That's what both the speakers talked about, reordering the social arrangements by pressure from below. So the top-down initiatives are there. So legislations and policies are there, but it is the pressure from below, the social movement, people's movement, those who are affected by this inequality and exclusion, they also need to be part of this, making this social justice agenda meaningful. So it's a people's agenda, as Mr. Chachra said. So the systems and structures that perpetuate exclusion need to be reformed, and we need to address intersectional marginalities and vulnerabilities which create social inequality, and then come up with our alternative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any remarks from Dr. Shalu?
No, it's okay. Like Professor Patel has really summarized very well.
From the legal or constitutional perspective, I'm a social scientist and
yeah, no, the constitution, of course, we have to really, see how it should be, because constitution itself or the law in itself, they won't be like, it won't make a difference. We, the people, we have to take action, somehow to see that the laws are being followed, implemented. So even in the courts, many of the women organizations, they are doing it. They are monitoring the kind of the judgments which are coming from the courts, so that at least we can have introduce the quality, the kind of gender sensitization in training programs. We should talk about all these issues. So basically we have to really, it's a continuous struggle. We can't just say ki abhi law ban gaya, so that's all. No, we have to really see that how it is being implemented, how it is being implemented in the ground. So it's not only about the awareness of the people, but also about how it is being implemented by the courts, by the state, by the or what kind of policy interventions should be made. So if we talk about domestic violence law, we can't just stop at making the law. We have to see that we have one-stop centers, we have shelter homes, we have medical services. So all those things should be there on the ground, because in the Domestic Violence Act, we have seen that these are the kind of loopholes we have not been able to address till now. So we have to ensure that these kind of things we should keep on doing. And that is the responsibility is on us, the women's organizations, the people's organization, and most importantly, as citizens, as groups, as collectives, what we can do. So I'll just end here.
Yeah, I think Trupti Shakshi has written in chat box.
Yeah, just keeping in mind the time, anyone that we missed today with the introductions will have the floor for our next session. We're really sorry for being this over time. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the call. Thank you so much for your remarks, Professor Vibhuti and Dr. Shalu. And I'm just going to wrap it up. As we come to the end of the day 1 of LPPYF Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship, Cohort 3, Summer 2024, Advancing Justice, Bridging Gaps in Public Policy Enforcement, an online national summer school program, a 1-month immersive online law and public policy awareness certificate training course and internship program. I, Varishka Bhushan, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose the formal vote of thanks on behalf of IMPRI New Delhi. We are grateful to our experts for the day 1 session, Shri Shailesh Gandhi ji and Mr. Sandeep Chachra ji, for taking out their valuable time and allowing us to learn from this online certificate program. We thank our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel ji, and legal advisor, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, for convening all these sessions. We thank all of our participants who have raised pertinent questions and actively participated in today's deliberation with great patience as well. We look forward to welcoming you next Tuesday on June 18th for day 2 of the certificate course. We are grateful if you are watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on various podcasts or reading our publications. We hope you continue to join in the future to our IMPRI #WebPolicyTalk and #WebPolicyLearning. Wishing you all a wonderful day and thank you so much.
Thank you, Anushka, for conducting the session so well, democratically.
Thank you.